You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning. Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. You can also get us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sacco is the rector of the cathedral in Chicago, and co-host Mark Teresi, who was formerly the executive director and now, I guess, assistant to the rector on different projects. So how are you doing, Mark?
Good. I'll pitch our 175th for the Holy Name is going to begin November 2024 and November 2025. It's a year early pitch, but I'll have people keep an eye on special events that are going to be happening related to that.
To make it clear to people, we are in 2024, 175 years as a parish.
Correct.
And in 2025, November, 150 as a cathedral.
Correct.
Dedication being November 21, 1875.
Right.
And by the way, there was quite a storm last night.
Oh.
And it really ripped through. They said there was even a touchdown of a tornado at the western edge of O'Hare, also Midway. And Clint Cottrell had a great line before the program. He said, "Did you hear, Greg, that everybody gathered last night at Soldier Field?" Because he said there's no touchdowns there. Clint, I like that one a lot, being a big Bears fan, but I hope and pray that damage was minimal and certainly people not hurt. But the weather in this country so far this year has been brutal. That south dome of heat is just expanding and getting worse. The flooding out east, especially in Vermont, has been
Vermont,
catastrophic.
it was a river.
It's catastrophic, historic proportion. They've not seen rain like that depth in 100 years, and the fires are still burning in Canada. So it's like one thing after another. So we pray for all this to come to an end and get more balanced. And isn't it funny, in Chicago we had no rain in April, May, and June, and July has been a deluge. However, they say we are still in a drought because the ground has been so parched that it hasn't been able to soak in. It keeps hitting the surface and running off. But again, 312-255-8408 here on Catholic Chicago, WNDZ 750. Great program lined up this morning. Formerly known as the St. Francis Retreat House in Oak Brook, Illinois, Mayslake Ministries is a lay-led 501c3 Catholic Christian not-for-profit spirituality center founded by Father Jonathan Foster, OFM, in 1991 as a retreat house without walls. Since 1991, Mayslake Ministries has served the spiritual needs of Catholic Christian adult women and men from all walks of life, providing multiple spiritual opportunities for people who seek a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ. Joining us for the first half of today's program, backed by popular demand, tell us more about Mayslake Ministries, is Dr. Mary Amore. Mary, again, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Father Greg. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Mary, every time you're on the program, you keep looking younger and younger with such a beautiful smile.
Thank you.
And
it's all that good Christian living.
Yeah, and thing is, and again, you have been the director of Mayslake Ministries now for 16 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
16 years, and that's amazing. And in fact, maybe just again for our listeners, you began Mayslake Ministries not in this position, but you were hired for what position at Mayslake Ministries?
No, actually, I was hired for this position.
Oh, in this position.
Yes, Father Jonathan was retiring, and they had like an interim executive director. But I had just gotten my doctoral degree, and I was still working at a parish as director of liturgy. But I was feeling that internal pull, like God was pulling me to something else. And one day I sat down and read the newspaper from the Diocese of Joliet, and there was an ad there. They were looking for an executive director, and it was like a knife went right through my heart. I knew that was for me. And so one thing led to another, and here I am 16 years later.
Did you ever think that you have been executive director for half the life of the ministries?
I know. No, when I took the job, of course, I had no idea. But yes, I'm well aware that my imprint is on that, and hope that my legacy someday is that we just want to bring people to Christ, and through all of our different programs and services, that's what my goal is always, through spiritual direction, or the programs we're doing, or the books we're writing, or the DVDs, or the media. It's all been with one goal in mind, help people draw closer to Christ.
A question I would have for you, Mary, I'm not sure I've ever asked this question before, and that is, as you reflect upon your life, you had so many choices or directions you could have gone into. You could have worked in the corporate world, you could work in this area, that particular area, but you ended up working at Mayslake Ministries. Even before that, you went to get a degree in what you have right now. And why did you choose this direction where could have been so many others? Because I'm sure 40 years ago, you never saw yourself as executive director of Mayslake Ministries.
No, Father. You know what? Here's the thing. I didn't choose it. God chose me, and I just responded. All my life, I wanted to be a travel agent because I love traveling. And so my husband just said, wait till the kids get in school. I'm now a grandmother, so that was a long time ago.
You're a
He
young
said, just
grandmother.
wait till they get it of two. So he said, wait till they get in school, and then you can go to travel agent school. I said, all right, fine. So while we were waiting for that time period, God moved quickly. And he literally, as I've said before, called me out of the kitchen into ministry. And, when you say yes to God, you have no idea what you're saying yes to, or who you're saying yes to. But long story short, I'm actually doing what I always wanted to do, because I tell people I'm the ultimate travel agent. I take people to their ultimate destination.
Right, exactly.
So there you go.
I like that.
Now, I
like that.
So you're looking at 16 years. When you came in into this position to now, what are maybe one or two or three big movements that you've seen in those 16 years?
Great question, Mark. One of the biggest ones that I've experienced personally is the need for spiritual direction. When I took over Mayslake, there were only 4 spiritual directors. Now, it might say 45 on our website, but we're pushing over 50 because we just had a class of Sacred Presence spiritual directors graduate in June. So we're going to put them on in August. So we are a absolute center for resource center for spiritual direction, I would say, in the Midwest. And through COVID, we were able to take everything online. And so that just opened us up to helping people all over the United States, again, draw closer to Christ. So we've seen that. I've seen, as the church has seen, people falling off kind of in their spiritual life, retreats. This was started as a weekend retreat house without walls. But, unfortunately, people don't take the time to take 2.5 days. So we try and work with them. We try to meet them where they are. And we have morning programs, afternoon programs. And again, all with the hope of just restarting or renewing their relationship with the Lord.
Beautiful.
That is wonderful. And the thing is that now let's give it an example right now. What are some things that are happening coming up in Mayslake Ministries the rest of the summer and even into the fall? Because your programming is phenomenal, and we want to get word out there for people. And also, maybe as we begin, Mary, and that is, please let people know this is for everyone. You don't need a master's or doctorate to be part of a program. So maybe just help our listeners, for who, or all you're going to be talking about, who's it for?
Thanks, Father Greg. It is really for everyone who seeks God, which should be everyone walking the planet. But we've got spiritual direction for individuals, people who come in to see us. We have sacred presence, which we can talk about because applications are being taken now. And that is our 10-month intensive program to form people to become spiritual directors. And no, you do not have to have academic credentials. What you have to have is a calling from God. You have to feel that the Lord is calling you to accompany people on their faith journey. Because again, spiritual direction, sacred presence, it's about listening to the story of someone else and helping them discover, the Lord working in their life right now, even in the midst of, challenges and maybe grief or whatever, or even joy. So, so that's a wonderful program. We've got the Biblical Institute, which we inherited from the Diocese of Joliet. And I'm so excited about that because this year in the fall, we are taking the program online. So that means people can learn about sacred scripture from the comforts of their own home. We give them a certificate at the end, as we do for our Sacred Presence Formation program. It's wonderful. It will help people enrich their lives in scripture. Great for deacons, helping their homilies, great for religious educators. Anybody who's involved in ministry should really be familiar with sacred scripture. So, we've got that. We've got our Eucharistic revival programs, parish missions, books. We can talk about that because I'm sure I'm probably talking too long.
Oh, no.
How does a parish connect? Well, these programs sound like wonderful, either not ancillary or auxiliary, but programs that can complement what parishes are trying to accomplish. How do parishes connect with you?
Absolutely. And Mark, we are here to complement what parishes and the Archdiocese offers.
Mm-hmm.
We're working in the sandbox together, which is really great. We just do it from a different venue. Mm-hmm. People can contact us through our phone, which is 630-852-9000.
That number one more time, Mary?
630-852-9000. Or they can visit our website, which has all of our programs and services. And that's www.mayslakeministries.org.
One more time on that.
www.mayslakeministries.org.
Beautiful. We're going to take a little break. WNDZ 750 AM Catholic Chicago 312-255-8408, or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Mary, when we get back, my first question to you is going to be, how is your bishop behaving? We will be back in a few minutes. Please stay
Bishop
tuned.
Ron Hicks, wonderful, outstanding bishop.
Mm-hmm.
Catholic Charities Golf Classic on July 17 is bringing together golf fans from all over Chicagoland for a fantastic day on the links in support of our programs and services throughout Cook and Lake counties. Don't miss this signature event that is being held on two premier courses in the Chicago area, Knollwood Club in Lake Forest and Shore Acres in Lake Bluff. Gather your foursome or just join us for the spectacular dinner after the golf tournament concludes. Catholic Charities Golf Classic is always a highlight of summer in Chicago for many people. We hope you'll join us this year. To learn more about sponsorship opportunities and register for the Catholic Charities Golf Classic on July 17, visit CatholicCharities.net.
This is year 44 for me teaching. When I started here, there were teachers here that had taught me when I was a student. Now I'm the old person. Right now, I teach junior high math. I love when kids find what I'm teaching to be fun and they get it. I see that light bulb go off and it's a thrill. People are always amazed. What? You're here for 44 years? It's hard for me to believe, frankly. I love what I do. Every summer I think, oh, I miss the classroom. Even on the weekends, I think I can't wait to get back on Monday and teach those quadratic equations.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship programs provide a free opportunity for young adults to spend time with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youth aged 9 through 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer, and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports every relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that can help young adults build confidence and enjoy fun activities with their peers, too. To learn more, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7970 in Cook County and 847-782-4224 in Lake County. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today.
We're back. WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. You go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Dr. Mary Amore, Mayslake Ministries.
Now, before the question, Mary, I'm a little disappointed. You didn't compliment Mark on his haircut.
Ha, ha, ha.
Now, look at that.
Oh,
In fact,
Mark, it looks good. You've got the summer cut going.
You got that right.
they got them all cut.
The problem is it doesn't grow back.
In fact, I'm having trouble in the studio because with the light in here, the light's bouncing off of Mark's head.
Yeah, he's so subtle. He's so subtle. Well, so
Terrible.
when I had a job, which he fired me from, that executive director job, I had a door. And on my door, I had a quote. I think it was from Lumen Gentium, that the role of the laity is to consecrate the world to Christ. So that's what you're doing. Why don't you reflect on, I'm fascinated with the idea of your call to this position because I get it. I get it in terms of the journey, you know. What about us? How do people discern that? What if there's somebody out there listening thinking, you know, I think I am being called to something. How do they process that? Because it's not a typical, like, you know, dial 411 and you're going to get some info.
Right. You know, if God only used a cell phone.
Yeah.
Although I think people at Mass think he does because the phones always go off. But that's another story.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That's a good line. I like that.
You know,
We got a couple today.
You know, Mark, God is calling all of us to a deeper relationship with him and ministry, but it takes discernment, and that's the beauty of spiritual direction. You know, when God was calling me, you know, you're right. It's like you've got this, there's this angst going on inside. Do you know that things are not settled, that there's something better awaiting, but you just don't know what it is. And so when it happened for me, I went to a spiritual director. And so that's why I know how valuable spiritual direction is for someone when they really are feeling the tug to either enter ministry or to just draw closer to Jesus, whatever. I mean, to sit with the spiritual director, they listen, and as you tell your story, and through they're vessels of the Holy Spirit. So through the Holy Spirit working between the two of you, the director helps you recognize those callings or those promptings that the Spirit might be leading you to.
A question I would have, Mary, and that is just flipping gears for a quick second. I look at your life the last 16 years, executive director, Mayslake Ministries. You put your heart and soul into it. You're enthused about it. You're joy-filled in the Lord. I look at Mark Teresi, 46 years, full-time, has served the people of God in the church in different ministries. Now he's part-time in the cathedral, but 46 years, full-time. I've had so many people say to me, Greg, I'm so busy raising the children, trying to make ends meet, bills to pay, this to do, the pressure of children, the pressure of activities, commitments. I just don't have time. And so they leave it to, they say, the priest and the sisters, with you, with Mark, with others serving the people of God. But by our baptism, we are all called to serve. So how do you respond to someone who says, I'm so overwhelmed, I just don't have time for all that you're doing, and you're talking about Mary, or you, Mark, and I just don't have time, I'm busy, I'm paying bills. And I get it, but how do we draw that perspective and balance in our lives?
Father, having been there, was raising my children, and, just life was highly chaotic. But it's first of all, it's to trust in the Lord that, if he's calling you, and for sure he is calling all of us to at least a deeper relationship with him. So that means carving out time for God, because that's the most important thing. And that begins with prayer. Even just carving out 15 minutes every day, close the door, let the kids, watch TV or something, and you just sit with Jesus, and you listen to him, and you ask him to talk to you. And the more you do that, the more you have this conversation with the Lord, and he then begins, really metaphorically, to take you by the hand. And when you get that awareness that God is with you, you're not on this journey alone, right, then anything is possible. Because if he calls you, he will give you the gifts and talents and time to do what he wants you to do.
And sometimes, and I'm not just saying it because he's sitting across from me, but sometimes there are people in your life that see things in you that you don't see. And I think that's part of spiritual direction too. Also in all of my ministry, I've always had mentors that have really kind of made me stretch, more than.
Yes.
But I think what Mark is saying is very important. I think for all of us, for you, Mary, for Mark, in my own life. You're right, Mark. There have been people in our lives who have seen things in us that we did not see in ourselves or believe we could do, and they trusted us and said, you can do it.
Well, just give people a snapshot of George Lane in your life.
Yeah,
George Kane.
Yeah, Father George Kane. Yeah. In fact, he just yesterday came back from Honor Flight Chicago. He's 97 years old, got on the plane at Midway Airport with 118 other veterans to Washington, D.C., and on the plane was one World War II veteran, 8 people from Korea, and that would have been George Kane, but he was a chaplain from 59 to 63 after the Korean War, but he was also connected with the early days of Vietnam. But you're right, Father George Kane in my life, people in your life and Mary's life. And if we believe in the incarnation, take it seriously, that God became one of us through Jesus in every area except sin. Therefore, I always tell people, if you want to see the face of God, look in the mirror or look next to you. That's the face of God. And so Mary, maybe that's a question, because the last couple of minutes it's flying by here, is what gets you out of bed in the morning to be so enthused and energized. And I know you have hard days and tough days.
Mhm.
As an executive director, there's a lot of stress and things you need to do that keeps you away from the ministry part with the nuts and bolts. So, what sustains you to this level?
Father, again, it has to go back to the very simple thing that I love the Lord, and my everything I do revolves around, how can I please Him? How can I listen for Him talking through someone that might, call the office or just stop in and see me or something. And so by the time I put my head on the pillow at night, I think, okay, Lord, did I at least help the people you sent my way? Did I do what you wanted me to do? And so just, and for my family as well. So every day it's just, I feel like, I just am blessed to be able to serve people in such an overt way, because I do work in a ministry. But, there's moms, there's dads out there serving God every day by taking care of their families, because our families are our first vocation, because we are to lead all of them to Christ. And so, that's what gets me up in the morning, that and sunshine.
Now, I don't want to be negative, but I don't know if you've experienced, but during all these years in ministry, I have dear friends, and every once in a while, one of them will say, when are you going to get a real job? Why are you still doing this? Do you ever experience that, and what's your response?
Oh, I get that all the time, right? Especially from my inner circle
exactly.
of friends and family.
Right.
Just imagine if you had a real job, what you could be doing. I go, you can't, once you got that joy of the Spirit within you, nobody can shake that out of you. And so I just go, you know what? I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I listen to you guys. You're miserable. It's a challenge, but I love what I do. So.
Now that's very interesting that you can both so resonate on that level. When you're going to get a real job, and you have to deal with it because they love you to pieces.
Oh yeah,
but they mean it.
They do mean it.
When are you going to get a job in the corporate world? A real job.
And to Mary's point, many of them are miserable. Or like on their third severance package,
Correct. Yeah.
Now, Mary, we're down to the last 2 minutes. Maybe just in closing, give us one program that you'd like to mention that's upcoming at Mayslake.
We've got Father Ronald Rollheiser coming back.
When?
Wow.
November 4th, Saturday, November 4th.
And how can
He's coming.
Can people register for that now, or how can they learn more about that?
Yes. As a matter of fact, we're offering an early bird special of $10 off the admission price. So it's normally $40. It will be $30 if they register before September 1st.
And how do they do that?
Okay, go online at MayslakeMinistries.org. Again, MayslakeMinistries.org, or call our offices at 630-852-9000.
One more time on the number.
630-852-9000.
I want to thank in a very special way Dr. Mary Amore, who's done a fantastic job for the last 16 years as the executive director of Mayslake Ministries. And Mary, you are always welcome on the program. Your joy, your enthusiasm, your deep faith, your simplicity in terms of you just speak the word of the Lord in a very joy-filled way. And I know Mayslake Ministries has done phenomenal work for so many years. So thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of summer. We're going to blink. It'll be Labor Day. So thank you for joining us. We are listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. You can also get us on YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowitz and Mark Teresi, stay with us. We'll be back after these messages. And again, do not touch that dial.
Catholic Charities' Family Self-Sufficiency Program has assisted thousands of single parents who are working to become more self-sufficient through education and employment opportunities. Our experienced case managers accompany participants for up to 5 years on their journey to identify, address, and break down barriers to improving their quality of life and achieving meaningful goals for themselves and for their families. Professional, compassionate assistance is offered in a safe and trusting environment as participants develop the skills needed to become financially stable and able to support themselves. Every achievement starts with a decision to try. To learn more about Catholic Charities' Family Self-Sufficiency Program, call 847-782-4233 or visit CatholicCharities.net.
Welcome back.
Es fabuloso verlos.
Dobrze jest znowu być razem.
It's good to be together again.
After so many months apart, pandemic capacity limits have been lifted, and we want to welcome everyone back to church. We can all pray together again. And listen as our choirs lift their voices in song.
We've been together in spirit.
And now, when you are ready, our doors are open wide.
Nuestras puertas están abiertas de par en par.
Nasze drzwi są otwarte.
And we're here to welcome you back to Catholic Mass.
The Cemetery Ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM 312-255-8408. 312-255-8408. Also get us on YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowitz along with Mark Teresi. Mark, that was a wonderful first half with Dr. Mary Amore.
Especially underscoring how people do need spiritual direction, and they're looking for it.
And to take the time to pray and somehow connect the mystery of lives with the mystery of their God with their lives. And we have a great second half lined up. Sister Joan McGlinchey is a missionary sister of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Now she's preparing to retire. Sister Joan joins us in studio for the last half hour of today's program to squeeze 60 years of religious life into this 30-minute radio segment.
Good luck.
So good luck. So Sister Joan McGlinchey, welcome to the program this morning. God bless you, and congratulations on 60 years of religious life. And you are retiring after 31 years as the vicar
for religious.
Vicar for religious in Chicago here for 31 years at one particular ministry. And maybe for all our listeners, I'm always fascinated. Let us know for a couple of minutes your vocation story.
Okay. It's been refreshing for me to, at this point in my life in retirement, to recognize remember this part of my life and how influential it was. I went to Mother Cabrini High School in New York City, so I met Mother Cabrini with my father, when I was searching for a high school. And, I was from downtown, down Lower Manhattan, so I didn't really know anything about these sisters. But I was attracted because the place had a garden. It was interesting. It had a garden. But then, the whole idea of an American saint and Mother Cabrini, it was a little unusual. But the question that the experience that I had, where there were formative influences, religious sisters were everywhere visible when I was growing up.
Yeah.
They were in the hospitals. They were different. There were 6 or 7 different communities, even in our small neighborhood in Chelsea, New York. It wasn't a small neighborhood. It was New York City. But we knew sisters, and I was, kind of paid attention. I had a good Dominicans in grade school, and I had missionaries in high school. Mm-hmm. But the missionary community, I was attracted by the missionary life, but I never didn't think I really wanted to do it. It was kind of that ambivalence that's in teenagers. But it was interesting to... sisters that I met in that high school were all from different places. They were very different individuals, even though the dominant culture of the community was Italian, was immigrant at the time. Mm-hmm. But the sisters seemed to be from everywhere, and they were very original people and very creative and, encouraged us. But there were two influences. When I was a senior in high school, it was a senior privilege to be a catechist. And to go out, and I went out with 8 other girls picked. I don't know how they picked us, because we didn't pick the angels of the class, to go out and teach catechism in a poor Bronx parish. So when I had a first communion class, wow. And I call it was like my image of that I remember as a girl, 16 years old. What was it was like a tin church. It was painted blue, and it was very poor. And the lights hardly ever went on. And I had the sacristy. I was teaching these 7 little kids, wow. Preparing them for First Communion. Now, that was, I think, an experience that I connect to another experience. When finally these children went through the year and made their First Communion, we had a bishop. There was the only non-Irish bishop in New York at the time, Bishop Pernicone. He was Italian, and he was a friend of the... I didn't know. He just happened to show up at the ceremony. But I saw an image. There was an image of a very poor Latino woman in the back of the receiving her First Communion too, along with her daughter, and it was she was very pregnant, and she fell over, and he lifted her up. He lifted her up from the ground, and he's a little man, and here's this woman, falling over. But the image of the church, that as the purpose of the church was to lift people up. Somehow I understood that. I didn't know what it meant, but that image stayed in my mind. And the fact that the other thing was there were influences also. There was this campaign from a French-Canadian priest who came down and got teenagers to go to adoration once a month in a parish in the Bronx. It was always going from Manhattan to the Bronx. And it was very interesting that, and I did it for some reason, and I did it praying not to have a vocation. Wow. Praying not, I was resisting, Mm-hmm. So basically, I think it was the influence also of the sisters being different. I remember when I was in 8th grade, these 2 sisters came down from the high school, and I didn't even know I was going to the high school then. They came down and they gave a vocation talk. And one sister was Chinese, and the other was from the South. And it was like, they were so different. And later when I met the community, I realized that diversity, that she was, that they were diverse. I was attracted but ambivalent about it, because I wanted my freedom, I wanted my college degree and all that stuff. And but that experience of understanding that the church had a place, and I didn't want to be a teacher. I was influenced, the good example of the sisters I knew, they were role models of people who could be teaching and could also be real human beings.
Now, how did you find your freedom in your religious life?
Well, that was a challenge, because I entered at the time that Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, who love to call them, we are missionaries, mm-hmm. We were semi-cloistered. We lived as if we were semi-cloistered.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We never went home. Wow. We always went out with a companion. We had to be in the house by 6. Certain things we didn't do. It was very, very, and what happened when I entered, a week after I entered at the end of August, after graduation from high school. After high school. And a week later, I was sent to Philadelphia to teach 4th grade. No.
Wow.
So I thought you were going to be, formed in something. They were going to teach you what to be a sister. And I thought you were also going to learn, get to go to school before you became a teacher. Forget it. So we were under there was a whole system in Philadelphia.
You are 18 years old.
I turned 18.
Wow.
So, I go there. Now, there's a master teacher. There's a whole controlled way in the diocese to train all these untrained people to be teachers. So you had a master teacher and you had help doing your plan. But I was shocked. I was kind of a bit scandalized. And then I was scandalized at the reality of a national parish. I didn't know. The Irish were behind us. The African Americans were across the street, and the Italians. And I wasn't Italian. So what am I doing here? And also when I entered, the time that I entered in the early 60s was the time when people were beginning to leave religious life.
Oh, okay.
So it was a time of and of course the community had one centralized government. We weren't even in provinces. We were 1,000 sisters around the world under 2 elderly leaders.
Wow.
And so there was no real representation of the different cultures. So Vatican II came along, and I call myself a child of Vatican II, understanding religious life and its purpose in the church through the prism of Vatican II, that it had to be not only adaptation but renewal. And I didn't know what these things meant, but I knew that I wanted them because they were lacking in the experience. Now, a funny story, though, during my novitiate, which was a 1-year novitiate, at the time we had the vicar for religious in New York, and I didn't even know what that meant, came up and gave us scripture classes, opened the Gospels to us. And that kept my sanity because I was bored to tears. All the housework and we were on a farm, an upstate in New York, and I wasn't a farm girl.
I was going to say.
I will tell a funny story. I went out to, with the novice directors, we were learning obedience, and I thought this was a trial from the Middle Ages, and I was going to be smart, She kept I was cooking, and she said, go and get some potatoes. Go down to the field and get some potatoes. I went down, no potatoes. Came back up, no potatoes. Go down again, no potatoes. I didn't know they grew underground. They came from the A&P, okay? And I did the family shopping, so I kind of knew, But it was discovering that I was called. Now, at the time when people were leaving, my high school teachers, the people I entered with, there was a whole revolution happening it was deciding to stay because I felt a sense of call. I felt that God wanted me there, and then I believed that things would change. The other thing, a lot of these things that we did that were anarchic and very old-fashioned and not really life-giving, some of the customs, it's not our customs, not our practice. They weren't in the rule. They weren't in the gospel. And I held on. I said, no, this is going to change. And it did. It changed before I made final vows.
Wow. Were you ever in leadership in the order?
I have been at leadership at every level.
So how did that work for you?
When I came to Chicago, and I came in at the end of '83, I came from Rome, having gone to the Gregorian University and worked in Italy for about 8 years.
In what position? I
was a formator. And I was also, and then that time the formators were they were in governance too. You ended up being on the council. So I knew the European provinces. And then I came here, but I came here to do formation work. And I came here I was an educator and somebody had studied at the Greg, and I came here to learn kind of what the sisters needed. And at the time when the hospital started to get challenged. So it was a whole change in ministry. I left New York in 1975, and I never went back to my home province.
Wow.
I've lived in different places. And as a missionary, that's our life.
We're going to take a little break. WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. You can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Maybe when we come back, Sister Joan, we could talk a little bit about the missionaries' influence, but Mother Cabrini's influence, even to this day, in the Archdiocese of Chicago and around the world. You mentioned hospital. Your order took care of my dad when he died at Columbus Hospital. And there are a lot of those stories in our Archdiocese and around the country. Yeah. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
For more than 20 years, Catholic Charities Adult Protective Services has been advocating for seniors who are the victims of abuse, neglect, confinement, or financial exploitation. With our partners at local, city, and state agencies, our trained case managers follow through on every concern that is brought to our attention in a cooperative way to ensure that our seniors are safe and protected. According to the Illinois Department on Aging, last year nearly 21,000 cases of elder abuse were reported in Illinois. Of these, only 5% were reported by seniors themselves. So raising awareness is an important part of this issue. If you are concerned about a senior you know, call 800-252-8966. That's 800-252-8966. With your help, we can stop elder abuse and look out for the seniors in our lives.
I am a seminarian.
The church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Catholic Charities Refugee Resettlement Program has been especially busy this year, assisting individuals and families who have fled dangerous situations in their homeland, including Afghanistan and the Ukraine. The Refugee Resettlement Team helps with everything they need to start to rebuild their lives in a new country, including housing, employment, clothing, food, English classes, and referrals for legal and immigration services. The refugees are tremendously grateful for the compassion and practical help they're receiving, and they're giving back and helping each other plan for a brighter, safer future. Volunteer opportunities are currently available for those who would like to be family mentors and tutors so children and adults can practice English. To learn more about these rewarding opportunities, call 312-655-7096. That's 312-655-7096.
We're back, WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. You can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We're with Sister Joan McGlinchey. We're celebrating 60 years of religious life in 30 minutes. So it's great to have you here.
Yeah, well, thank you.
My question, as before the break, talking about Mother Cabrini, her influence, you know, that beautiful statue we have now at Holy Name. I can't tell you the number of times there are stories of people standing there and have stories of Mother Cabrini. I have our own family story. How did her charism influence your vocation?
I think from my own experience going to school with my sisters, the experience of diversity. There were people in my class who were from Eastern Rite Catholics. They were people who were from other countries. There was somebody even from Cuba who was the revolutionary with Castro.
Oh, wow.
So we had kind of that experience of diversity, not only in the sisters, but also in the congregation. And then and I'll make a connection to, I think you might remember the 25th anniversary of Cardinal Bernardine's becoming a bishop.
Yeah.
I was my last year as provincial. I came with a sister from Italy. We went to that ceremony, and we were here. We went to the Holy Name Cathedral. And I remember experiencing the Chicago church at its best, one of the best experiences I ever had at that time, with the diversity. Native Americans coming in their costume and different people. Now, it kind of, I fell in love with Chicago, with the diversity, with something that had been in my life from the very beginning, with my high school experience and my institute experience, having also been the stranger in a foreign country, For 8 years, I did not speak Italian. I did not know any foreign language. I learned Spanish and then couldn't use it. I was sent to New Orleans to teach high school. So it was like a number of things. But the whole idea of knowing that that experience is real. It's a real experience of knowing that you are the stranger, and then you can welcome the stranger. And look at how Chicago has been blessed with so many international priests and sisters. Coming here as missionaries. The church is missionary. And you don't have to go to a foreign country. Now, I have been blessed. I've been to Ethiopia. I've been to Argentina, Brazil. I've been around the world. But basically, but for a specific purpose. I take some vacation time and go to, my vacation time and go to Ethiopia and teach the novices that we were getting in that new mission in the recent decade. But the idea of the diversity and that God is calling us to respond to each other, is to raise people up, to let them know their dignity, they're worth our time and our efforts. And certainly when people come here, they don't get the best welcome in the world. It's hard to come into this country. But that gift of diversity and also knowing that you have to maintain a basic unity. Now, you know how diverse we are here in Chicago. That basic unity is one of the goals. We're working together. Whether we understand synodality as we move forward, or understanding what Renew My Church means, it means that we're working together, and it's not easy because we are all, we all have our own opinion. And
maybe a question for you, Sister Joan, because we could have gone from now until noon.
Absolutely.
On just your story. Being in religious life now for 60 years, and God bless you, 60 years to dedicate your life to God. And you told us your story about you were reluctant to enter. You were looking for ways for God to call somebody else, but not you. You wanted your freedom. What's been the single biggest change you've seen in 60 years of religious life?
Well, I think the idea of understanding the strong connection to the church, not only the charism of your order that you enter, but that our sense of church, being in the Vicars Conference nationally and working with people from across the country, and working with new immigrant religious, I have learned that this is really, it's very important to be aware of each other, to not just be in your own little bubble, but to be aware of the broader church. And that experience for me was Rome. It's been Chicago. It's been the present moment of responding to new situations with the people who are coming here, and knowing that we are one church, and that we have to learn to be a team player and not all about my way of doing things. To changing our way in order to achieve a good. Cardinal Bernardine put before us about saving Catholic hospitals by collaborating. It was a journey. It was a death and a life, but it was a death. The first experience was one of death, the death of Columbus Hospital and the death of some of the institutions that we prized. Couldn't stay the same way in order to do the church's mission. That, I think, awareness that it wasn't just our way of doing things, but it was a call to change. And this change keeps going on. We're still changing. One thing, I don't think that it's easy to manage change. I don't find it easy now, and I don't find it was easy before. But it's something that we have to do. And we have to do as disciples and as missionaries in the church.
I like that one line that says, the greatest constant in life is change. Because people say, oh, I don't want change, don't change this.
It's inevitable.
Leave it alone. When you think about it, we are changing. I mean, even on a very simple level, look at a picture of oneself from 5 years ago, 15 years ago. You say, whoa, this is what I looked like 5 years ago or 20 years ago. And we're changing physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, because we're not robots or in a vacuum. And the greatest constant in life is change. And there's a great line that says, the only person who truly welcomes change is a wet baby.
Yes.
They welcome a change, but otherwise we kind of fight it. Mark, you're going to have a question there.
Yeah. Sister Joan, what's on your list now as you move into your 61st year of religious life?
I'm, first of all, finish the transition here at the Archdiocese. I'm working, coming just very part-time since last week. And so I'm coming here. I'm finishing some people. I'm following and I with with the permission of Bishop Casey. And it's been very. It's kind of moving to the next thing, but not rushing. I haven't made a lot of plans.
What is the next thing, by the way? I don't even have a lot of plans, but what's on the horizon?
A good rest.
Boy.
No, because I find myself getting tired. When you break your rhythm, you get tired.
Sure.
So that, and also doing more research on Mother Cabrini, since I think I could do, since I've worked with Australians, I've worked with pilgrimages internationally, I think I can contribute to that by doing some writing, and I'd like to do some more research.
And stay connected with us at Holy Name, because we want to be an advocate for her charism.
Yeah, I was just thinking of something, just the other day. I think it would be good to do something on Mother Cabrini and the Eucharist, with the Eucharistic revival, okay? But I didn't, I don't have time to do it now, but I need time to pray something, because a lot of this is just not information. It's things that come out of your prayer and your a deeper understanding that you have to take time with.
Right. I can ask you this question, Sister Joan, that is, the fact that I just turned 70 in February, and most of my class retired. The class of 79 ordained at Mundelein retired now in 2023, but I'm not. I'm choosing to go on with the help and grace of God. I love serving the people of God, the Holy Name Cathedral as the rector. But all of a sudden, when the reality hits, where you, from a sports term, you hang up the spikes and you retire, what are some of the thoughts that go through your mind?
Nuns don't wear spikes.
It's bittersweet. First of all,
you're right. Okay,
Greg,
guys are. Yeah.
First of all, Greg, it's bittersweet.
Yeah, it is.
There's gratitude, and there's also loss.
Yeah,
it's grief.
Yeah.
If you didn't love something, if you didn't love it, you would miss it.
Yeah, I think you hit on the word. There is a grieving process when you retire, because you look at 60 years of active ministry as a religious sister, in my 44 years, that even the word retire, even Mark has retired full time after 46 years, but now keeping his foot in the water part time at the cathedral. I never thought there is a grieving process. But here's a great line: grieving is a process, recovery is a decision. But grieving we must.
And in the prayer, you pray to look forward, not behind. I mean,
definitely.
You appreciate everything that happened before, but you realize the challenge and the gift is tomorrow, and today and tomorrow.
And the joy continues. I mean, and it is a gift to be alive. I had a health crisis in the early 2000s, and I could have died. And it was, and I know that, and the surgeon said to me, "I've saved your life so you could still do some good."
Wow.
It was life-changing for me, and that was one of the reasons why I think I've stayed so long at this, in that it kept discovering something new, a new challenge to face in the role. It's not the role that I was hired for. It wasn't the role that was 10 years ago. It's different. And to keep on moving with the change, but also realizing limits physically, and limits, with energy. So.
We need to bring the program to a close. What a way to end on. I saved your life because you have more work to do. I want to thank in a very special way Sister Joan McGlinchey, missionary sister of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, who has served as 60 years of religious life, 31 years in the Archdiocese of Chicago. Sister Joan, our prayers are with you as you continue the next chapter of your life. You've been a gift to Chicago for years to come in your community. Special thanks to Mark Teresi, co-host. Special thanks also to Clint Cottrell and Michael May for the great work they did, and also Brian Hakim and Brock. To our listeners, God bless all of you. Have a wonderful weekend coming up.
Okay.